Hello and welcome to Baking and Log. I'm Gunnar Larson and it's finally fall. I am very excited about this because fall is my absolute most favorite time of the year. Now, I love Christmas, best holiday in my opinion, but I love fall. It's cold enough to where I can wear long sleeve shirts out, but I don't have to wear a jacket. There's pumpkins everywhere, Halloween's right around the corner, and it's apple orchard time. That means that there are people going to the orchard to get apples to make different apple themed foods. So I thought it'd be very appropriate that we make something apple themed today, or at least something that has apples in it. So my grandma got this for me for my birthday. It's a recipe box. If I find a recipe that I like that I might want to use on the show, whether it be from online, something I see on Pinterest, or something I find in one of our numerous cookbooks, either passed down from our family or just that we bought at the store, that I might want to use on the show, I'll write the recipe and the ingredients down and I'll put it in here. So yesterday I found this cinnamon apple crumb cake recipe, and I thought, I like cinnamon. Cinnamon's like my kryptonite in the food world. I can't resist it. I love cinnamon. I can give up any kind of food you want me to give up. But cinnamon, I can't do it. I can't give up cinnamon. So I thought, cinnamon apple crumb cake. Let's do it. Got the recipe right here. Let's get started. So there are three parts to this cake: the streusel, the cake itself, and then a glaze that goes on top of the cake once we're finished. The first thing that we're going to bake is the streusel. Streusel is like a crumb coating that can either go in the middle of something that you bake or on top of it. And in this case, it's going to be both. We're both putting it inside the cake and on top of the cake. So the ingredients that you're going to need for the streusel are going to be 1 1/2 cups of flour, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of melted butter, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So now we make the streusel. First, take your dry ingredients and pour them into the bowl. Then mix them together. Once you've mixed your dry ingredients together, you can start adding your butter, melted, make sure it's melted, and then your vanilla. And then mix them together until well combined. Now that we've mixed together all of our ingredients and made our streusel, I just want you to keep this in mind. It is supposed to be a crumb coating, so make sure that it is looking quite crummy. Well, I guess not crummy. Crumbly would be the better word. We don't want it to look crummy. Crummy's bad. But seriously, make sure that it does look crumbly, as you can see kind of here. It doesn't have to be smooth and mixed together like most things do. And make sure it's also evenly moist throughout. And when you're done, just set it aside. Okay, so for our apples, we have an apple here and an apple here. We have to peel them and then chop them up. So you can do this with just a regular apple peeler or with a knife if you want to, but on L.O.G here we do things a bit differently. We're a bit more fancy. We got this toy here that's a peeler, peels apples, potatoes, pretty much anything. So we're going to use it today. You just press the button and it goes! You're just going to do this with both apples and then chop them up. Alright, so now as you can see, we have all of our apples peeled and finely chopped up. Don't just chop them in halves, make sure they're chopped up really nice and small. Now we're starting our cake batter. Alright, so now it's time to make your cake. The ingredients that you're going to need are going to be 1 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of sour cream, 4 tablespoons of butter, 1 large egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Alright, so now that we have our ingredients, we're going to start baking the cake. The first thing that you need to do is mix together your sugar and your butter. Whisk together. Once your butter and sugar mixture is light and fluffy, you're going to add in your egg. Then add your vanilla. And make sure that you're beating the ingredients together between putting the new ones in. Then lastly, beat in your sour cream. Don't forget to scrape the sides to make sure you get all the ingredients into the middle. Once you've mixed together your wet ingredients, go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to start whisking together our dry ingredients. Alright, so now for our dry ingredients, we're going to have our flour, put in our salt, our baking soda, and our baking powder. Then mix together. Now that you have your dry ingredients mixed together, you're going to add your dry ingredients to your butter mixture. And then stir together until everything is combined. Alright, so now that we have our batter, our apples, and our streusel ready, we're going to start assembling the cake. We're going to be using a springform pan. You want to make sure before we do any of this, grease the inside and then line the bottom with parchment paper. This is an 8-inch pan, which is what you'll be needing, but you don't have to use a springform pan. You can really use any other 8-inch pan. So first, we're going to take our cake batter, pour half of it in, and then spread it on the inside. This is going to be a really thin layer, and that's okay. Alright, so now we have our first layer of cake batter spread out in the pan. Next, we're going to add our apples. Make sure that you cover the entire first layer. And you're going to be using all of your apples. Just pour a little bit in. Alright, so now you're going to add 1 cup of your streusel on top of your apples. And then you're just going to take your 1 cup of streusel and pour it over your apples. Spread it out until everything's covered. Then take the remaining part of your batter and pour it in on top. Then the last thing you need to do is add the rest of your streusel on the top. We have our cake ready to bake. Ha, that rhymed. We've preheated our oven to 350 degrees, and now we're going to bake it for 35 to 40 minutes. Alright, so while our cake is baking in the oven, we're going to start on our glaze. The ingredients that you need are going to be a half a cup of powdered sugar, and then 2 tablespoons, not teaspoons, of apple cider. Our half a cup of powdered sugar, and then our 2 tablespoons of apple cider. Then with a spoon, mix it together. Alright, so we have our glaze mixed together. All there's left to do now is just to wait on our cake. Our cake is finished baking and it's cooled for about 15 minutes. Gently lift it off. There we go. Now with our glaze, we're just going to drizzle it across. Alright, so once it's been glazed, you're just going to take your pie server. I'm just going to try to cut a little slice out of here. Really good. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for joining me. Had a lot of fun making this. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to go follow Baking and L.O.G on Instagram and Twitter. And if you have any things that you would like to see on the show, whether it be a favorite dessert of yours or a theme that you would want me to do, don't hesitate to put it in the comments down below. Thanks. See you next week.